Perhaps now. Test. Great, now it seems to work. So, hello. Sorry for the delay. My microphone didn't get picked up. I'm not sure what I did wrong, but I will find out later and will prepare better next time. Hello world, my name is Stefan Pölz, aka The Flashover, and welcome back to session number 12 of writing a benchmarking library for C Roslyn components. Let's do a bit of a follow-up from the previous session. So I'm bringing up Writer, and we have implemented or started to implement the CodeFix benchmarking library for C#. So we do have our type here. And let's also run the tests, see if all of them are still green. And let's have a look at the test. So we did build last time is this basic type. We have some input. Now we expect that this type name, which doesn't consist entirely of uppercase characters, is actually transformed into, or renamed, to be more precise, into all uppercase. And we also check that we both have the analyzer, which produces the diagnostic, and the fixer, which is then fixing the diagnostic, or is invoking a code action onto this diagnostic. And so in the initialization, we put in this initial source. Now we expect that the analyzer has been initialized and the fixer has not run yet, because the fixer then will run once we hit invoke. We hit invoke again, so it's actually executed twice. Where the analyzer is not executed, we execute it again, because we want to ensure that in the invocation phase, only the thing that we want to benchmark, in our case, the CodeFix provider, is invoked. And then we inspect the source, where we say, okay, please apply this fix. And actually do have a string test. So if let's make something wrong here, and then because the tests are all green, let's make one failing. So for now, I believe let's run the tests in the CodeFix project. So we can also enable, yes, so the test fails because, yeah, the string is not as expected. It works, this is cool. Let me enable continuous testing on this assembly, this test assembly. Yes, please. I thought I did already. So that on every save, perhaps on every build, we run the test automatically. Okay. So setup is done. Now I would like to also have a brief look at the last. So we do have a couple of to-dos now. Let's come to them. We also left ourselves some to-dos for this session. Perhaps not sure if we will actually finish the benchmark provider, the code fix provider today, but we should have the most frequent cases covered at least. But first, I would like to also do a bit of a meta follow-up on the last stream, because I did get some feedback live about using a tool which shows the input shortcuts and so in use. I had a look at a couple of them, but I didn't really feel, those that I found, I didn't really feel comfortable installing essentially a keylogger on my machine. I will have a look though on some writer plugins and or Visual Studio extensions. Perhaps there is one which can do that, so at least it's only scoped for the IDE. Yeah, and I also got some feedback offline that from a regular viewer. Thank you very much for the feedback that my stream yields too little pink. I look around in my room, there is little pink to no pink at all. So what I can offer is the tool Summit that I use for drawing. I can change that one to pink. I hope this suffices for the beginning. Perhaps I find some more pink later on. Maybe I hide some in the camera, not sure yet. All right, so this was the follow-up from last session. Now let's continue to implement benchmarking of code fix providers. Let's have a look at the first to-do. So let's jump to the actual type. And the idea that we had, well, we discussed, sorry. Hello, Manuel. I'm glad you're viewing. I guess there is 3 of you viewing. Perhaps also, is that an infant? A very small child. And the feedback that I got there is the very same that I got from my dad, that my stream seems to be excellent for falling asleep. So let's see how this goes today. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I thought about having a type which doesn't take the analyzer as generic and also the code fix provider, but only the code fix provider. Then I thought about, hey, what if I would like to have 2 analyzers involved to create diagnostics? So now I would like to actually change this type to only have the code fix provider, and the analyzers we could pass in as a parameter to the initialization context. So I will totally, so the code fix provider, yes. Let's this and let's change that. So there is, you can have any number of diagnostic analyzers you want as a setup, because it's essentially the setup, the initialization. So I would like to make this more flexible. So we don't have a diagnostic analyzer here. And we don't really have it here anymore. It will be not in control. The analyzer will be no longer control of the benchmark skin type here, but of the user actually. Because the thing that the benchmark cares about is the code fix provider. That's the one it should control. Okay, So what's not compiling? We do need analyzers in order to be able to, where do we use them? Enrich the compilation with. Okay, so I will actually, do we need them afterwards? No, we don't. So we'll actually move this array away from the constructor and actually into the initialization. And now they should be part of the initialization context. So perhaps we can provide a property here which will be type Diagnostic Analyzer. Should we pass in a type collection or instances already? Well, if we have the type, how do we new them? Let's pass in instances. So we have an I collection of diagnostic analyzers. These will be our analyzers. Init only if the user would like to override the instance of the collection, and we create new list, new collection of T. Okay. And internally, I want to convert them into a immutable array. So we can say immutable array of diagnostic analyzers dot immutable array dot create. Not sure what overloads. Is it an overload which takes an enumerable? Create range. Okay. So we use create range of diagnostic analyzers. I guess here we can omit the generic. It can be inferred and pass in from the initialization context analyzers. Okay, would like to use var here, code style, and I want to declare it here so it's explicit. And I didn't mute my phone. It's not the best preparation I'm having today. Okay, and then we have the analyzers and we get going. Okay, now I expect to have a couple of build issues. Here they are. So this is the test. Now we no longer have this analyzer, we have only the benchmark. So we need to pass in, I'll keep that because now the test would fail. And also, so we need to take care of that. And also the example, same thing with the example. I will build to have the test one. There is much more issues. Okay. So I'm actually expecting, I need to expose the analyzer collection for the test. So these are actually the analyzers. Hold on. No, I don't, because we just initialize here. So we say, this is the analyzer. Is new instance of this analyzer, so we can refer to that one directly. Okay. Should fix the build issues in this test. Okay, we have warnings. We need to fix the warnings later on as well. All right, failing test because argument cannot be empty. 40. Okay. So if I say, there's my code. With analyzers, it mustn't be, the analyzer collection must not be empty. So, okay, perhaps we need to check there. Should we perhaps still? Perhaps this resolves later on automatically. Or as a side effect, now let's pass in the analyzer. So I need that one here as well. That's not for the test. Oh no, that's the benchmark example. Yes. Let's say here, analyzers. And we pass in a new C# Diagnostic Analyzer. So this should fix the benchmark. The unit test. We have the analyzer. We also need to pass it in. Analyzers. New instant. No, not new. We initialized it already. We just pass it in. Oops, it's a comma, no semicolon. So let's build to rerun the tests. And the tests are in green. Right. Okay, and now we could pass in any number of analyzers. I would also like to have a view. Okay, first, in order to run the example, to see that the example is also still running, because we changed that as well. Show an Explorer. We need to fix some build errors. So this will be .NET 1-C release. Warnings, I believe. Yes, because we have a couple of warnings, and we do warnings as errors. So let's go to fixing warnings. Before we do that, I actually forgot one thing to do. I wanted to give a shout out to one follower that I got off stream, because usually I shout out the new followers that I gain during the stream, but what about the off streams? So fair. So I wonder, is there something to show? And so the viewer that I got off stream is Alnede 10 days ago. So if that was off stream, I forgot to give you a shout out. Thanks for following. I really appreciate it. Okay, but now back to the test. So let's fix to the solution. Let's fix the warnings. So we have a couple of warnings. I guess a lot of nullability warnings. So these locations, they are currently not in use. We can remove them the code fix context here we set in the initialize. I will for now suppress this warning. Oh, this is a struct, isn't it? It is, but the document is not. So I will suppress the warning on the document. We also have a diagnostic that comes from the analyzers that are included in the .NET SDK. It's a public method, and we should verify the parameter or the arguments for null. So let's create a test for that. Let's do fact void null validation, where we do create benchmark. Actually, I don't care about the benchmark here, so I also implemented a null. How did I call it? A null code fix provider. Null code fix provider is following the null object pattern. It does implement the type, so it's technically not null, but it does nothing. So we have no fixable diagnostic, and the register just returns and complete the task. So it does nothing. Because we don't need anything to do here, what we do care about is that we need a func. So if I call initialize, func of task initialize, func.initialize async, and if we book it with null, but also the inspect async. So initialize dot should throw exactly async. Perhaps it should throw synchronously. Actually, I want to throw it synchronously. So exactly without the async. Because it's returning a task. Okay. Then let's throw it. Well, I could use xunit throws an argument null exception, where we pass in those two methods, and it also doesn't allow that. Okay, then never mind. Let's go for the async version. Should throw exactly async. Argument null exception. Where? No. Result dot. I combine that. I always forget. Because I also want to check the parameter. Where? With yes, with parameter name. That's the perfect overload I was looking for, and it should be context, as well as for the inspect should also throw exactly argument null exception with the parameter name context. Test failing. I guess I disable continuous testing and run it manually. And it passes because I don't await, yes. But it, yeah, let's await it. Actually, I want to explicitly discard it. I'm not sure if this actually now works. But I do want these exceptions to be thrown synchronously. So how can we do that? Because it's an async method, we need to move the implementation into a separate method. or perhaps just not necessarily a totally separate method, but a local function. This could be, no, can't be static, which is now async. I write my local func here, signature. Don't need that, and we do the null check now here. Context, if it's null, throw new argument null exception, where the name of is parameter name is that. So we don't have the async here anymore, and we basically invoke and return this nested function. Now the test should actually, okay, now let's make a mistake so that we see the test fail. Let's add something to that string. I want to see the test failing. Because with this pattern, now the method itself is not async, which means that code until this code is ran synchronously, which means the exception is now not placed on the task, but it's actually thrown immediately. But it still succeeds. So I'm afraid this doesn't work like that. I do have, in order to really test that, I can't do this with fluent with X-unit assertions either. I did build a benchmark testing library for that actually. So perhaps it's now the time to use that. I believe I call it f0.testing. There it is. I haven't used it in quite some time. So I can call the pattern f0.testing.test that method. Okay. Where we pass in what we would like to test. Okay, perhaps in this case our initialize. Throws synchronously. Yes, there it is. And it also returns the exception. Yeah. So we could combine that exception dot parameter name dot should be context. If it works, let's see if it works. Failing test because parameter name was supposed to be context, but found that. All right, so let's do the same for the inspect. Also be context. Okay, and now we can go fix it. Let's also, actually, let's have it fail. So if I would be to move in down here and would run the test now, it should fail because the exception is thrown asynchronously, not synchronously. So yeah, that fails. If I would change that to throws asynchronously, something throws asynchronously. Okay, now we have to await it in order to access the exception and the parameter name, which makes the entire test async. Now this should pass because it's now the exception is now placed on the task. And it, okay, so that's green. Let's cover that so that we see. I was hoping that this turns to color. Because I guess I ran it for .NET 6, but I had 4.7.2 here selected. Yeah. Okay. So this now works. This doesn't anymore. So now we see that now the exception is placed on the task, and this is what we expect here. We expect it to be thrown asynchronously. But if I want to throw it synchronously, not be put on the task, that's not at all. We can use that. And now I need to, let's see the failure. Source synchronously failed. It doesn't throw any exception. Move that back. Run it again. And it fails, but it's now the second line which fails. No, it doesn't. Yeah, no. Just the way. Okay. Did it fail? Is it just a second line? And I didn't realize that it was passing actually. Yes, okay, so it was passing. It's just a second line which fails. So we need to implement this as well for the inspect. Again, if I would go and throw it, do we have the warning? Here's the warning that we need to, the external revisible parameter, or the method has a parameter. In external revisible method, okay, the message is here. There is more of the message which says that it needs to be validated. Context, if it's null, throw new argument null exception with, let's focus name again. Now it says no exception was observed synchronously. So let's again have thrown synchronously. It's here. The signature. Let's fix so that we can just return here. And give the async. Okay. I want to I want to have argument exceptions thrown synchronously, because if they're on the task, if I could like start an operation and then like way later on await it, but the argument exceptions definitely programmer errors, so they should surface as soon as possible and not later on when the task was awaited or the exception somehow observed, so that it's obvious where the error is because it was invoked with null. And now we get that the name is bogus. So let's indeed still a fixer for that. Fix argument text. It says context, and I guess now is a use name of. Perfect. Now they should be green. So we do throw synchronously at least the argument exceptions. Any other exception, which is happening here, everything in here is still run asynchronously. So let's say if I throw something here, it will be still on the task. So whenever it's observed. But yeah, I want to have the argument exceptions thrown as soon as possible. Okay, we are still fixing warnings. Call system disposable. Okay, so workspace is disposable. However, so I am creating a workspace and then extracting the solution out of that. If I dispose the workspace, does this mean everything fails? I don't know. We're using, what's it called? Using statement, using expression. I need to look the name up. Debate. Using declaration. Using declaration. Okay. I want to use the correct name. And what's the sharp? What's the previous using called? Using this is a using statement. Okay. Using var mine is using declaration. Okay. So that's a using statement, using declaration. Okay. With the using statement, let's see if the tests still pass. Now, if I would dispose the workspace, does this invalidate the solution? Doesn't seem so. Cool. So I guess I need the workspace in order to modify workspace related stuff, but what's the solution? Because does this have to do with immutability? Everything is immutable, so cannot be changed. Perhaps. Cool. Okay, so one more warning fixed. We have registers one or more code fixes, but doesn't override the method get all fix override this method for a. Okay. There is no fixer for that. Get all fix provider and well-known all providers.batch fix. I think default implementation should fix that warning. Actually, it says registers one or more code fixes. It doesn't register any code fix, actually. It's a null provider. I see empty here. Is this a... Okay, override the method and provide a non-null fix all, potentially, yeah, batch fix, or null to explicitly disable. Well, in my case, no, to explicitly disable. Okay. Warning, we have here a possible null return. Okay. Let's see if this can actually happen. So this is the methods that we use in order to create the document. If we have a look at the benchmark, we need to create a document, then pass into the code fix context. Code fix as a document as a context. And for that, we create a workspace. Whereas we actually call the create document, we call this method. And we actually call this method. and we create a project ID, create a document ID, we create a solution, and from the solution we get a document with the document ID. So is there any way I could have made an error that this isn't available if we wouldn't say add document here? Yeah, let's just do a debug.assert. Let's get the document. And assert that the document is not the same. What about the project? Same with the project. If I wouldn't call this, I guess it would be null. But let's do a debug assert to ensure that there is no error, at least in debug mode. Assert project is not null. Let's see what other warnings do we have. We have here another knowledgeable, null with some nullability errors or warnings. Okay, so the get compilation could be so document always have a project, but the compilation may be null. Well, that means we make the compilation nullable, but then we may run into trouble when calling with analyzers. Since again, I'm controlling the creation of this, the user has only indirect influence on creating that. I guess I will also just do a debug assert. Compilation is not null. The document. Why is the document? Do I need the document? Yeah, I need a document here. Fixes one warning. Another here. Change document. Change document maybe no. Okay, yeah, because we do use the document ID here. But again, cert is not null. Yes, it's definitely a problem on my end and not on the consumer's end, so this should never be null. And there is one more warning. So that's like an okay. Well, then that's the nullability warnings here. So that's the old output. Okay, now we are in the codefix provider actually. Okay, we get the syntax new root, maybe now. Yeah, but I expect this not to be now. Find token. Okay. Parent may be null. Let's extract the parent. Use reliable. All right. The semantic model, maybe null. That's right. this. Something is wrong with the fixer, definitely. We should call configure await here. And yeah, we actually had a look at this diagnostic last time, but I said, okay, I want to fix that later. This is obsolete. We should use an overload taking rename options. Must be this one. It takes a solution. Okay, so it's actually this overload takes a solution. We have the symbol, we have the new name. Here we must use the options instead. Oh, that's actually internal. This one is the public method. Okay, there it is. So it's the solution, the symbol, the new name, but in between the rename options. Okay. So if I would go here, yes, this would be not solution. We need the symbol rename options. Sure, how to get them? Do we need to create them? I believe so. There is several options. That's a struct. It says rename overloads, rename in string. Okay, let's have a look at the documentation. Rename overloads. If the symbol is a method to rename its overloads as well, that would be preferable. Rename in strings. Rename identifiers in string literals. Okay, renaming comments. Rename file. Now let's just do all of it. Set type, that's not obsolete. No, it's not obsolete yet. Okay, minimum options. Just true all of it. And those are the options. So we don't need the solution. So while I do access it here, with the original solution, symbol name, symbol, we have the options, the new name, and the cancellation token. Okay, this should fix that. And type symbol, maybe null, but I don't expect this to be null. All right, so should fix most of our warnings. Can be made non-nullable, but I do want to get that from the overriding. I hope this is not a build error. Let's see. Let's bring up the shell and try to build it. And we don't have any built-in warnings anymore. Cool. Yes, because we do warnings as errors. Now let's see if that runs. Looks good. Cool. Now on to the next to-do. we actually left it to do previously. Here, what if we have no analyzers at all? What I wanted to build last time is an analyzer to provide, that should always be there, that creates diagnostics. So let's create a new type. This will be a C# diagnostic analyzer reporter. Now this should be a diagnostic analyzer. We make the type internal, should not be visible to the consumer of the library. Seal it. And the missing members supported diagnostics are ones that we create. So I want to have a constructor on this one. Basically, this just reports diagnostic. It doesn't do anything other than reporting diagnostics. So how can we report a diagnostic? We need some thing to register it. Do we register at a compilation? What's like the most basic thing that happens once? Syntax tree. No, I guess that depends on the syntax tree. Syntax node, symbol, semantic model, compilation sounds good. Start action. This is an action to be executed at compilation start. A compilation start action can register other actions and or collect state information to be used in diagnostic analysis, but cannot itself report any diagnostics. Yeah, that's not what we want. So we take the compilation action. A compilation action reports diagnostics about the compilation. Sounds good. So we register compilation action, then we have our analyze compilation with this method, and we have a context here, and via this context we report diagnostic. We may report many diagnostics because this is what the user puts in. Diagnostics. Let's go for each style over diagnostics of the context. And no, not the context. That's wrong. That's wrong. Just the diagnostics that we have here. Because we pass in, and let's see, an immutable array of diagnostics. Assign this to a private field and start reporting these diagnostics. What are the supported descriptors? Does the diagnostic have a descriptor? No. Not anymore. We do need. Now let's see what we can do here. If we say mutable array dot create, what? Let's perhaps have a. It is in the constructor. Have a private read-only supported diagnostics member. to initialize this supported diagnostics. Now we return these and we say that all those diagnostics in, we select them into, so we get a diagnostic. And we, this static callback, create a new diagnostic descriptor out of that. And the diagnostic descriptor takes quite a bit. So the diagnostic should have an ID, the title, no. Oh, there is a descriptor. Wait, descriptor. So I searched for diagnostic descriptor. And then we have our descriptions and we to immutable array this. Assign this to the supported diagnostics. And yes, this can be refactored. Where the auto property, yeah. Anymore. Okay. So we select the diagnostics and to immutable array them. Now those are the ones that we support. We register a compilation action. This can be an expression body. And then we just report diagnostics. So it does nothing other than reporting diagnostics. And this shall be, starts raining. The default that, yeah, so analyzer maybe now here, then we run into an issue. So we always have this one. So we create a range, then also add one. Perhaps a builder is more suitable for that. Or do we just add and regrow the array? Add. So I call this the reporter. So we always have this. Can we do an add range? It only has add. There is an add range. So let's turn this around. I want the reporter to be first. So we say create, pass in this item. And then we have the other analyzers added by the consumer as well, and to immutable array this. This is already immutable array. What am I doing wrong here? Range takes an enumerable of t. And this is C# Diagnostic Analyzer. Ah, okay. Yes. Create Diagnostic Analyzer. Yes, the base type. So it was, this grade was in feared to use this type, but those are not that type. So I must use the less specific. But how do I now get the diagnostics? Well, we could start by adding them to the context. Perhaps later on is a more elegant solution, but let's start with that. A collection of diagnostics. To immutable. Okay. my style wants to have the explicit type. Okay. So now we need a test for that. Actually, I should have written a test before, but yeah, I don't have something implemented. Currently, it's, well, we could say we have a test and see that they are still passing. We didn't break anything. Did D1 complete? Yes, so that's the benchmarking one that we started earlier. That produces something that's good. Okay. Test. So we want to have, I will copy this test for now. This is a fixer with custom diagnostic, with custom analyzer. And we will add a test, which is a fixer with porting analyzer. Yes. That means we do not pass in the analyzer here. Actually, remove that. And we cannot test for these. Actually, let's get rid of. No, should we keep them here? Nah. Entirely here. We pass no analyzers, but still, now this doesn't really work. If we run the test, since this analyzer doesn't exist, now there is no diagnostic produced, which means the fixer can never apply this fix, because a fixer requires the associated diagnostic, the supported diagnostic, to be reported. Sequence contains no elements. It's not what I expected. Which sequence contains no elements? Is that the add range? So no elements exception. Numerable single. Perhaps if we debug it, we break at the exception. No, we don't. This should work. But where do we have? Okay, we do a single here. There's the single. This should be the problem. So we have no diagnostics. Yeah. So it's expected. We have one. We have our reporter. And yeah, so what I would like to add, I still have the comment here. If I exchange this, I would like to add now this diagnostic here. Say reset diagnostics, new talk diagnostic. We need to pass in a location. Location is 0. And this doesn't work because I typed it wrongly. The diagnostic should be a talk diagnostic. Yes. And create an object initializer. We definitely need to set the ID, but let's keep it empty for now. Let's keep it empty for now. Now I definitely have a build error somewhere because the types don't match anymore. Yes, cannot convert implicitly. So we need an immutable array of diagnostics, our diagnostics, but how do we get them from these? Diagnostics dot select. Where we get in the ad hoc diagnostic, and we want to create a we need to say diagnostic.create. There's no new, of course. Diagnostic.create. And .to immutable. To immutable array. Because I have a semicolon here, yeah. How do we create this diagnostic now? We could pass in a descriptor, but we pass in like everything. So we just guess we have like a one-to-one. We should have quite a mapping here. Yeah, this is the overload. There's another one. This takes localizable string. I want this. Oh, this. But it's convertible. What's the difference between these two? Is suppressed is missing here. So let's go for this one. Is suppressed. We don't need here, at least not yet. Okay. Okay. Perhaps I put this into a method. Call it create diagnostic. Pass in the ad hoc diagnostic. Diagnostic here. And let's create the method. Okay. Return diagnostic.create from the diagnostic. So we first pass in the ID, then the category, and the message, and the severity, then the default severity is enabled per default. Warning level, title, the description. Should I create an implicit conversion between the two of them? Perhaps an explicit conversion, but we can refactor this later if we need it at more places. After the description comes the help link. The help link, we have the location. I hope this is Let's see how this works out. We have additional locations, we have custom tags, and we have properties. So this is exactly what we want. And this returns us a diagnostic. And this doesn't compile because solve. Oh, because I made these nullable. So the severity, if this is null, then we should take, select some default severity, hidden info warning. Let's take warning by default. This cannot be solved. So the string matches, the category matches, the message should be castable. The severity matches now. Per default is also okay. Is enabled by default dot get value or default. Warning level as well. Get value or default. The title matches, the description matches, the help link matches, the location matches. Then we have additional locations. This should be castable. We have a string tag and properties. Immutable dictionary into. Yes, okay. So this is less concrete. So we need to say here dot to immutable dictionary. Woohoo! All right. Diagnostic is not generic. And now we create a diagnostic for all of these. My code style suggests to use var here. And we pass them in. Let's see what's happening. So this way I want to achieve that you can report any diagnostic that you wish without actually writing an analyzer first. Value cannot be null. ID cannot be null. Okay. Perhaps I need some other diagnostic here, which enables correct creation by design. For now, I will use those quite manually, but we should then have a method which creates them correct per default, correct by design. Parameter source. Is that for the two immutable? Two immutable dictionary. There we have a source. Oops. And if that requires not null, so this will throw. Okay. So we could say if the properties yes, and if it is null, we say dictionary.empty. Oh, that actually allows null, doesn't it? Yeah, then we pass in just null. Okay. Value cannot be null, parameter source. Oh no. This is No, it isn't null. Should be able to. That fine. Because it's just empty. But maybe because I set a lot of stuff to null here. Let's get rid of that. See how this works. Category. We need a category. We need, diagnostic must have an ID that is neither null nor empty. Yeah, okay. And now we can go ahead and see what the is expecting here. I just used the same diagnostic ID here. The one that the analyzer, the fixer is expecting. So let's pass in that ID. And I guess warning 0 and warning are not compatible. So that I choose a poor default. So if the warning level is, can I pass in a value to the get value, a default for the default? Yes, I can. 1 perhaps. Same warning. Same error. Warning level 0 and severity warning are not compatible, but I do should return 0. They should return 1. Where's the 0 coming from? It does return 0. The warning level is null. Why does this return 0? Although I set it here, get value a default to 1. Isn't it's source.net time. Variable of t. Yeah, if it has a value, we return the value, otherwise the default value. Why does this not work? It's opened in the wrong tab. Oops. I'm now wondering if it is available. Standard, it's always available. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong here. Oh, is the def? No, it is, but it is null. If I set it to, okay, once I create this diagnostic, okay, and the warning level is null. I don't understand that. Why is it? Okay, sequence. Oh no, it's a different error. Okay, it was just outdated code, I guess. A sequence contains no element. We have a single somewhere again. This one. Is no diagnostic reported? No diagnostic is reported. Is this reporting a report pair? Is this one invoked actually? Or perhaps is the problem here? Okay, it doesn't seem that this reporting diagnostic does not. Maybe I forgot to set those. Yeah, the C#. There's more actually. There's more property attributes. I do have them on the Diagnostic Analyzer. Oh no, that's a Diagnostic Analyzer. That's just C#. Codefix provider has more. Yeah. Does this issue? No, it doesn't. Compilation with Analyzer doesn't seem to have the analyzer, but it's there, analyzers, and it's the reporter. It's there. Is maybe this supported diagnostic not working as I would expect? The scriptor has no category, it has the ID. Enabled by default, false. Yeah, that's the thing, I guess. So when we create the diagnostic, it would be smart to have is enabled per default. If it is not set, let's assume true. But the sequence still contains no elements. Time. Default thread is warning. It is enabled per default. But we do not hit this. Oh no, okay. It is registered. And we do hit D for each, where we have this one diagnostic. And this diagnostic gets reported with severity warning. It's enabled. It's not suppressed. There is. Oh, then the single must be somewhere else. Woohoo! I must have a single somewhere else. No, I have a first somewhere. That's in the the location. Yes. Okay, my bad. That's the analyzer actually. This is a warning that I suppressed previously. Let's close everything. There's a lot of stuff going on. In the test, fix provider. So that's one no longer random, but in the fix provider, we do need to get the diagnostic here. So I guess the diagnostic. Let's see. Do we have one diagnostic? Span is quite empty, yeah. The location is bad. So this first fails. Yeah. Okay, now we need to pass the correct location so that the span is good. Yes, we don't really do that just yet. That's not the test, that's a test. So we need now to extract here the location. So the diagnostic does have the markup key. I put this into a method. I also need to sanitize the string. Yeah. I will put this into a method. I call create diagnostics as in the entire context. And we need to sanitize the string. So we do have the markup parser. Parse accepts a file path, a markup, and a location. I have a déjà vu. I totally built this somewhere already. I would like to reuse that and then afterwards consolidate both implementations into some shared place. But it's like here. No. Here. When we do create the compilation, we go to the sources, select them. Yeah. That is our markup path. Okay, we need to create file path as well. Okay, close the file. So that's from here. From this type. Already copied something here, so those two can go to some shared component. Sources, how do we get the sources? I think I combine these, don't I? Yeah. This is an extension method. So I get all sources, then I parse them. And I should then return, well, actually, currently I only support one source. I can only say context.source. So there is no select. I just have a singular path string. And we just sanitized. So source and add locations. Yeah, we need to out those locations. No, do we? No, we don't. No, we don't. No, we don't. We keep them here. We use them for down there, yes. I guess there is an overload which takes diagnostic to select, but also an index. Is that right? Yeah. And we can't do it anymore. The type argument of method cannot be inferred from the usage because it's an ad hoc tag. Let's say diagnostic and index. Yeah. And then we create a diagnostic. We pass in also the index and the locations. Or let's do it like this. And we have an index and an input location. So we do create a diagnostic, but we need a location. So for the location, say locations at index, or let's be the default. If we don't pass a location, then we will use that. Okay, can't be static. I always like to make it as strict as possible, make it static, make it private, make it sealed, unless I have evidence to not be either of that. Okay, argument exception. 0 must be a non-null and non-empty string. New name. Okay, so that's again the the code fix provider. There's a different name that I expected. Test C#, codefix provider benchmark. Yeah, the benchmark name here is wrong. Name this later. New, I believe here, new name. Must have a problem. Ooh, I refactored one part, but I didn't refactor this part actually. New name is empty string. Because the identifier token. I guess there's still something wrong with the location. Now I do get the entire class declaration. Maybe I know. No, class, super empty class. Perhaps. Yes. Because this is quite an invalid string. It believes like here starts the class and then something. Yeah, this is not C#. At least not yet. Isn't there something similar coming? Never mind. I need to do something with the sanitized string. Yeah, there it is. I guess we can out it. String sanitized. And use that instead. Where do we pass in the text? Create document context.source. Yeah, we need the sanitized text here. We also need to refactor this type as this is like the test type. It's very similar to the example type. And new name now is still empty. Still super empty. Still the not sanitized. No, it would. Okay. Was it still executing on the old source, I believe? There was this type name. Woohoo! So the test is passing. Let me get it failing if I write here underscore. It fails because it differs. Yes. Cool. Cool. I still need to refactor this. No, there it is. There it is. Yeah, the semantic model, I don't expect this to be null. And here is still the obsolete version in use. We want to use the other one, which has solution, symbol, rename options, new name cancellation. Solution, symbol, New name cancellation. I believe we initialize them true, true, true. Rename everything. Type symbol. So to be in sync with the example. Just to make sure that there is the current up-to-date source in use. Let's run all tests. This one passed. They should all turn green. Yes. I do have a couple of problems. No, that. Those just suggestions of style. Cool. Okay. So that means we can now, without an analyzer, just report anything that we want without having a specific analyzer, because it would be quite tedious if we want to. Let's say if I want to report on, if I have a diagnostic, if I have a fixer for a diagnostic that I do not own, because the fixer operates on an ID, which is just a string, which should be unique. And if I do not own this fixer, I can hardly pass it to the, or it's more difficult to pass it to this test here. But also if we have many tests. So we now have both scenarios. We could have multiple analyzers or just one analyzer producing diagnostics that then the code fix provider is fixing, or we have none and just set it directly, or any combination. So again, if we do not set these, they will fail, don't they? Value cannot be null ID. And the category. The type which, yeah, perhaps I, for now, create another constructor overload. Take these. Test them. Using here value tuple assignment in order to basically do it in one line. ID category, ID category. This is the same as if I would write an ID is markup location, ID, category. It's the same. Also do this before that so it becomes clear. And this basically is the same. Okay. So we could, it's not optimal because I still could just choose the other constructor that we have in different scenarios or in different analyzers. What else could we add? Make, yeah, it's now as it is. Yeah, but it's not super optimal because I just call this constructor and see it failing again. Does need to be another type, or I don't really like this here. To do, try to refactor into a slab that is correct by design. But for now, the use case is covered. We can have any diagnostic emitter that we so desire. Cool. So like emit like CS2007. I think this is the warning for that you should configure a wait and a wait operation or anything else. Cool. I guess this is that to do. Have a look at my list. Also at the time, did start a bit later today because of microphone issues. Let's do 15 more minutes perhaps. Then we have approximately 2 hours. Yeah, that's the one that reports. We do have that. We need actually, let me bring the to-dos here in scope. We have a to-do here. We have, actually I'm looking at this document here. So have an overload without the T code fix, also without the diagnostic analyzer, to have only provider and have the initialization context take diagnostics to produce. We do have that, and this was like the type I proposed to derive it from the other, but basically this is now just one type because we pass it through the context. Called the one ad hoc diagnostic analyzer. This is basically the one that we now built. That's just for eaches and reports. Have a look at tools which show keep Shivacook shortcuts. I will check out the IDE versions out of that. Let's put this in the test. Oops. We have a test that use all properties of both contexts. Yeah, we still need a more forward test. Additional texts. Are additional texts interesting for fixers? Let's find out. Yeah, we still have some single issues somewhere. Let's have a look at all this things we have. It's this one. It's maybe problematic. This one. So we may have multiple diagnostics or none at all because, yeah, we faced this issue now several times. Just a single same issue. Okay. So we now to do, we find all the singles. Yeah, there's another one. May there be more than one apply changes operation? I don't know. Yeah, so this was the to-do that we have this name also, as with the that we allow allow location in the input. We have that, and we should also, yes. What's that? Diagnostic. Yeah, so this is what we drafted to be able to set diagnostics. Okay, passed in here the rule. Okay, I guess this also makes sense to have a, so this closes this document. Perhaps it makes sense to have an overload here. That takes a, yeah, we don't need that, diagnostic descriptor. But let's have a use case for that. For now, I will let it just set the markup location and have a to-do. Let's do it. Markup location and throw not implemented exception. Okay. And those are the to-dos that we actually noted last time. We've implemented one, just implemented one. No, two, the warnings as well. But I wanted to find out if the diagnostic analyzer, if the code fix provider would be interested in additional files. So could it receive additional files? Let's find out. So we can register a code fix. I don't see anything of additional files here. Let's have a look at the documentation. If addition, because in all the other for source generators, for incremental generators, for analyzers, for diagnostic analyzers, additional files may be relevant input, because you can also report on additional files, or for generators inspect additional files. But are they relevant for a fixer? Can a fixer do anything with additional files? So we have here a diagnostic analyzer. Let's see if we are in the initialize. No, that's the analyzer. We want to have a look at the code fix provider. Provider has a code fix context, and the code fix context has a document, and this is no additional file. So this is a C# or Visual Basic file. There's a location, we have a diagnostic cancellation token, and something we can register on. So there is no additional, there's additionally. But I guess there is no additional files. See if they could be relevant. What if we try to add additional files? Because I think I set it up to be able to. So we have here our analyzer, let's say additional sources. No, that's not additional sources, additional texts. We could say my text.txt has some content. And I want to actually have a diagnostic there produced. Let's use this syntax. Content. This is diagnostic number 0. So we expect diagnostics new diagnostic region is 0. The ID should also be same ID as previously, because this is what the diagnostic or the code fix provider is listening 2. Okay. That means we now need to also get the additional text as an input. So when you create the document, just to try it out, I will have one additional text. Should also as output here, out string additional text. This must be sanitized. Just try out, I will revert it if they are not relevant. Additional text. And we must assert them, yes. So we locations, additional locations. And we text. And for now, we'll exclusively focus on that. So I will only create a diagnostic for that. So we will say, okay, diagnostics, but use the location. Yes. So let's use the additional location. This should, for this one post, not empty. And we also need to pass it to the compilation somehow. So when we create a diagnostic, we also create a document. This document also gets a string additional. I'm not sure if this will be a source text. Let's find out. And pass it through. Okay, I guess we need to give it to the solution. String additional. Okay. Where do we? Oops. I think I hit F11. Pass in the additional in the usages. This is wrong. Okay. No, it was correct. Compiling and see if it works, but how can I set an additional file? Additional documents, add additional document. Promising. What does add additional document get? It gets, of course, also a document ID. It has a name and it has some text. Okay, document ID. Do we need to pass in the additional ID? Because I need to give that document then. Now we have multiple documents. Okay, let's use, this will be our document for now. So I will get rid of the regular document. I will only have an additional document now. This has to work. I will break some stuff, but consciously to have not this specific test case covered. Additional, oh no, we have some location. It will be my file.txt and we pass in the additional text. Let's see if this does what we expect it to do. And I think we had this test set up with the my text. Yeah. Debug. Hello, Stu Engine. Thanks for joining. What am I trying to benchmark? I'm actually benchmarking Roslyn components. In this case, we are benchmarking a code fix provider, which is basically a code fix provider is something that if you have a squiggle in your editor, a warning, then you can hit in Writer Alt Enter or in Visual Studio Control Dot to get a fixer suggested. And we basically write a type which enables benchmarking of those fixers. And currently I'm trying to find out what if additional texts are relevant for a fixer. So let's see if we sanitize the string correctly. It's not additional text. Okay, we do have a mistake here. Oh yes, this should be additional texts. I assume there is only one. It's really just an experiment whether to find out whether additional texts are relevant for. It's a collection. It has no index for fixers. So I'll just use first. I don't. Was it? Yeah, and we just pass in the text. This will be a bit of an experiment. So we do get the additional text and we do get it sanitized. That means we also have a location. Yes, we do. External file location. We have a source span from 0 to 12. This sounds all right because text here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, excellent. Okay, so we do create the diagnostic. Now the document. I'm wondering. Oh. That's bad. Because that's a additional document. And this is then not a document, but a, okay. So I don't think that files are relevant for fixers. Because, where was it? Get document. Yeah. If we do like var additional solution.get additional document. And derived from document? No, it does not. There's a project, document state, text document kind. What's a text document kind? Document, additional document, analyzer config document. I think that's editor config and global config. Okay, so let's debug the test. That should show that we do get the text document, but we can't pass a text document to the diagnostic, can we? Okay, let me create it. we fail. Yes, we fail because something is null that we don't expect to be null. Where was I? I guess this fails now. So the document is indeed null, and the text document is my text file. Okay, so that seems to work. So we could add it to the solution. No, that's not really helpful. Text async and result. Yeah, here's our sum content that we defined in our test. Okay, so it's not part of the solution, but we can't really. Yeah, if I have a text document, let's assume I return the text document here. Hold on. Document is deriving from text document. Okay, it's actually, that surprises me because usually it's like the shorter name is the more abstract type and the more precise name than the longer type. Like a text document would derive from document, but I believe that the document has existed, like, I don't know, Roslyn 1.0, and then the text document, which could represent anything, a source file, which is a document. A document is a source code document, or some diagnostic, what's it called? Diagnostic config. There was a kind analyzer config document, like an editor config or a global config, or an additional document, which really is, I believe, the additional file. It's just any text or YAML or whatever, but no C# or Visual Basic file, or at least it's not compiled. It could be C# text, but it's not compiled or treated as such. So, and the diagnostic fixer, also the code fix provider. Let's go to the code fix provider benchmark. That requires if we are in the yeah, wow, there's quite some setup going on. Okay, I need to clean up this method. But we do pass in the document here to the code fix context. The code fix context requires a document. So this must be source. Let's see if there is any overload which takes like some code document. So I believe that a fixer only works for C# or Visual Basic text and document, and no additional file. So I guess we can totally ignore additional files for the code fix provider. We do have them for the analyzers, but also for the source generators and incremental generators, but we don't need them here, it seems. So we could, code action. That's the register, and here it is. Yeah, no, that's all. It only works for documents. Cool. So just to make sure, from a deriving point of view, if I have a text document, not here because it doesn't matter. And if I say here, that should say, yeah, no, not convertible. Argument type is not assignable. Okay, so I will hit Control-C until all the additional file hacks that we just saw, to find out whether this is used, are gone. This is in this file. And we can get rid of the additional text here. The code fix provider does not allow additional texts. Well, it could allow them. Well, we could add them, I guess. Unless unless our analyzer, no, not the analyzer, the code fix test, code fix provider, unless the code fix provider, no, that's only relevant for the analyzer, not for the code fix provider. I need to get my mind straight. No, that should be fine. Yeah, let's get rid of the additional text. Okay, out a lot of parameters just to get it compiling. Yeah, so the solution would have been anyway, so it would need it to be properly done, but to find out whether it's working. Yeah. Change here. Now the additional texts are gone. Don't support them in code fix providers. Unless I'm circling around. Unless the analyzer, because in our test, we allow to set an analyzer. If this analyzer is requiring some additional files, because the analyzer may support it. Okay, I guess we still need it. Yeah, I guess we still need it. But yeah, we need it. So it's not relevant for the code fix provider, but it's relevant for the analyzer. Okay. We learned that. So let's add a to-do here. Support additional texts for analyzers to read. Irrelevant for the code fix provider. For the analyzer which creates the diagnostics. And then we could also create diagnostics here. No. So we don't have, we only allow like this. But for now we remove it because it's not part of this, wasn't part of this test. To revert to the state where we've been, yes. Okay. And yes. For the test if they are green. And then we come to an end for today. Okay, so what have we achieved today? We have added support for the diagnostic. No, I always use the wrong name. For the code fix provider benchmark to basically emit any diagnostic that we want without having an actual analyzer supplied for that actually. And we also laid out some to-dos for next time. So we could finish next time, or at least almost finish. Let's jump back to the, there we go. So this was session 12. We continued implementing benchmark provider. So next time we maybe, if we don't finish, we should be quite close to finishing. So there's 1 or 2 session tops left to complete the code fix provider. However, next session is not next week, or at least not benchmarking time, because next week I will do chapter 2 of creating a faster enum methods for incremental source generation. We did like quite some time ago, have chapter 1 here, where we have built a faster version of enum dot is defined. So we have a look at source code, source.net. Enum dot is defined. There it is. We see that there is we do get an array here, so this seems to allocate. I guess I'm not sure. Is there at enum info? So there also seems reflection to be involved. Handle. Okay, so there is definitely allocation going on, and you could write a rather naive version of this. Let's see if I should go to SharpLab. We have like naive version is if we have enum a datetime kind value, and we want to get Boolean, whether this value is defined or not. We could basically just have a switch on that value. And well, this could throw something. But am I using this wrong? The switch, isn't it? This could say if the datetime kind dot local true. This is a generator that we built. It creates basically this. And in the company that I'm currently still at, however, I'm afraid I'm in the phase out phase there. I'm there for 2 more weeks, and I want to leave one last package behind to use, because what we had some parts in our code. What I saw is that we want to have the value of the enum as a string. Because let's have a look at datetime kind. It's like what we use is get the 0 as a string, get the 1 as a string, get the 2 as a string. This you do via you can pass in a format. If the format is D, then you get the decimal. You get really the value as a string. However, this value as a string, again, there is some unsafe code involved. Sure, I will definitely do some benchmarking, but this is not the. I guess there is a faster way to do this, and this would be to do it constantly. So we have the 0 here, 1 here, we have the 2 here. And this is what we will build in the next stream, a generator which basically creates that. But we also need to pass in the format, because there's other formats as well. There is also G, X, and F. I think G is the default, so that gives the name. X is for hexadecimal value, and I forgot what the F is. Internal flags. I'm not sure what that does, but we will have a look at this next time. And this then returns a string. This will be value to string or something. Format. And if the format is G, no B, or format is D, then we do that logic. And we will do this next stream. And then after that, so in 2 weeks, we will then again go back to implement the code fix provider. One last announcement I would like to make, or well, I announced it last time already, but in the .NET meetup from Vienna that I am co-organizing on September the 20th, we have Joao with us, and he will talk about modern observability for your .NET applications with open telemetry. If you are in Vienna or close to Vienna on the 20th of September, come by. We are hosted at Dynatrace. That's close to Hauptbahnhof in Vienna. As always, we also live stream to both Twitch and YouTube if you can't make it or if you're not close to Vienna. So if you're interested in .NET and OpenTelemetry, you don't want to miss that. And I'm looking at my notes. That's it for today. So to thank everyone for staying a while and listening. Really appreciate it. And I'll be streaming in a week from now. So this will be in 7 days minus 2.5 hours. Goodbye. May Roslyn be with you, of course.